All right, everybody, and hello. Here we are once again with Tom and the X-Ray team, talking about no code, building and launching with X-Ray Tech, and of course, Crowd Tamers. Tom, how's it going, man?
It is going pretty well, Trevor. I've got to say this week's updates. It's been a hard couple of weeks, last couple of
Yes.
weeks for us, I think. But you know, the good news is, we have a couple of products here between Summary Legal and ClassNotes.tech to leverage the wonderful GPT-4.
There you
We'll get
go.
to that at the
Yeah,
end of the
we
call.
will.
But the last couple of weeks we've really been focusing a lot more on the our internal process for actually like duplicating and remixing a product into something new and adding just a little bit of functionality here and there, with various features. So, last week actually we were talking about, not on this call but on our regularly scheduled call, we were talking about, oh, what if we figured out a way to pre-edit videos.
Yeah,
So that was actually one of the things that I prototyped the last couple of weeks was, could we use the timestamps that GPT-3 gave us
yeah,
of the high level points of the call, and then use those timestamps to actually programmatically edit the videos and be able to churn out, hey, this is a 15-minute recording and maybe there's three highlighted points, and then you get three 90-second clips or something out. And we were able to do that, all using low code, or no
yeah.
code in this case, to actually do that. A couple of formatter steps in Zapier never hurt anybody to reformat the timestamps, but it was really pretty easy. So, with all of these different things going on, it's reassuring to see a couple pieces of functionality here and there, that we can leverage into to all the different functionalities that we have.
Yeah. I actually was playing around with GPT-4 last night when it was working at like 1 in the morning. It's overloaded now. I can't make it do anything. And one of the things I did was I just put in a transcript of a call I had, and I said, just tell me the interesting parts from the call. And actually just pulled out some sentences and stuff. Didn't give me timestamps. Sentences and pieces of like, hey, this is interesting. So like GPT-4 might even shorten that loop a bit. I do feel like there's a need, right? My wife right now is doing social media for a couple of nonprofits, and one of the things she's spending, I think, the last 2 days on was she had a hour long webinar that her nonprofit held, and she was putting together a maybe a 2 minute video
Mm,
of interesting bits out from it. And one, her computer is not at all spec for video work. So she just like mentioned, like, I'm gonna get a cup of coffee and come back and it'll be done. But the other is just having to be like, what are the really interesting parts from this whole long piece of, a discursion on something, and then edit this together, and then what do you do to make it look more visually interesting and all these things. So that is one of the big frontiers to try and clear. Um, in terms of building in public, in terms of how things are going, I've talked about this with Charles Cormier last week when I was talking with him. Um, and part of building in public is you don't just share all the wins. That's just Instagram. You also share when things aren't going as well. And so with the Crowd Tamers team, because I had projected end of March I'd do 40K, which is not great, but it's okay. And in the span of from Tuesday last week to Friday last week, I went from doing 40K to doing 8. And that's because my upcoming business evaporated, and then two current clients just went later. And that all combined meant I was after since October of last year, Crowd Tamers has lost money every single month, and we've lost a total of 80K so far. So at 80K and then looking at a 20 something K shortfall, I was just like, ugh. So the team is, they've been very understanding. Like I had a call with them and they were all like, this is temporary, Trevor. We'll get through this. I've had to do a setup call with every team member to be like, hey, we're on hourly now, right? I'm not
mhm.
saying everyone is fired, but rather I'm saying, hey, like, I can't pay you for the hours that someone else isn't paying me
Yeah.
because I'm out of money. So we opened up a freelancing channel in Slack, and I'm already pointing to any of my team members. I'm like, look, here's if you want recommendations of these gigs I'm seeing, I'll recommend you, right? I'm trying to kind of cover up some of their financial holes because they deserve to eat too, apparently.
Yeah. So,
So,
so what you're saying is you're running a sale. Any
yeah,
any viewer
there you
right
go.
now that wants some
Any viewer right
experiments
now
done,
listening. Yeah, yeah.
there's something on sale here.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that, Trevor. I mean, it's a tough time. I know, from the agency world that we are currently in at X-Ray, and previous life at Checkmate. That's some good work to try to help people, shore up their personal finances.
yeah.
But it's tough. I mean, that's the agency life. Sometimes, in a downturn, it's really good for agencies, and other times it's not. And debatable if we're even in a downturn. I'd probably ask GPT-4 if it thinks so. But
We're in a panic, to be sure, right? SVB Bank, Signature Bank, now Credit Suisse. Like,
oh, Credit Suisse is the third one. I missed that.
Credit Suisse is on its way down. It is trending at historic lows. It is down to 2 francs a share. I'm not sure what 2 francs are doing walking around. Like, I figured you'd only want to have one at a time. But yeah, so it's like a little over $2 a share. Um,
Oh.
and it was up at $19 a year ago. So they are at the risk of default, and the Saudi Arabian fund that was backing Credit Suisse has said, no, thank you. We're not giving you any more. And that's what made the shares just start to go down. So at least Credit Suisse is not the United States' job to bail out. Of course, there are tons of businesses in the U.S. that also interact with Credit Suisse. But just like this is a case of, if you wouldn't panic, there wouldn't be a bank run. But
Mm.
because you're panicking, there shall be one.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to get too much into the economy right now, but
Right. I
um,
am not an economist. That's true.
yeah, there is some element of a self-fulfilling prophecy when it comes to whatever you think is going to happen is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you're sort of writing your own thing. But
I am, and
anyway,
I continue to believe I'll be successful despite 6 months of proof that I won't. That's okay. I'm a founder's job is to believe, so I continue to. Uh, so that and we're working on experiments. We've done a little bit of work on summary legal. I did a rewrite of the page based up from talking to
yeah.
the top 50 law firm that we were in discussions with. We're talking with that top 50 law firm's knowledge management team in a week or so.
Next week, yeah, that, that
Next
that
week,
should be a really interesting conversation. And
yeah.
I think this is like where the micro product angle and tactic is really gonna, I think, pay off. Is like learning these little nuances about
Yeah.
how niche organizations or niche industries actually go through the purchasing process, and it's different everywhere, right? So a
Yes.
huge law firm is going to be way different than class notes specifically, right? So I
Yeah.
actually showed class notes to one of my old professors,
Ooh.
and she was adamant, and I'm curious what your hot take is on this, adamant to reposition the product to go directly to universities and say,
I'm.
"Hey, university, hold on, hold on." So,
Please
"Hey,
go ahead.
university, ChatGPT and all these other things are going to be out." Rather than letting all your students do it one at a time, basically, what if you said, "Here are all the lectures that are in the business school." You feed it through a class notes system, and you generate these outlines, and you generate these study guides for people to learn through, like, the official AI assistant of the university. Sales
Right.
cycles are a nightmare, of course,
That's my
but
problem. Is
yeah,
you and I would both be retired before they
yeah.
put something into production.
Some universities, though, I mean, if you can consider, University of Phoenix or any of those types of things, right?
Right.
So some of those actually would have a decision maker that could make a decision, right?
That's true.
There have to be some level of universities where there is this, position, president of a university that can just make the call. For an
Yeah.
Ivy League or something like that, probably not, and they're going to want their own, special thing. But I thought it was an interesting tactic nonetheless.
I am not 100% averse to the idea. My problem is just that sales cycle is compared to what you get when you sell to the student,
Yeah.
right? And now there is something, by the way, I just noticed today. I was demoing this on a call, and there's no free trial in Class Notes, which there must be. It's just
Whoops.
give me $48,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
was like, oops, a little tiny, like there's a checkbox to tick in Stripe, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to show you the back end. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not giving Tom $50. So uh, the like now we haven't really sent traffic to Class
Yeah.
Notes
Yeah.
yet
Yeah. Yeah.
because there was a whole problem with app buying, which I believe is finally resolved.
Good. That is good to hear.
That's off
With the
your plate.
SVB debacle, it's good to know that my credit card still works.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but before I start sending traffic to the page, now we need to have like a free trial working.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had discussed last week or 2 weeks ago. It's been 2 weeks since we talked here. That we don't want a free demo on Summary Legal, but we do on Class Notes because you tell a 19-year-old upload a video or give me a link to a YouTube video that your
Yeah.
MOOC has as its online.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Fine, yes, they'll grab that and they'll see that. They will try. There's no client confidentiality between students and teachers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, we've got that done. I've got all the ads and everything set up for Class Notes. We've got Minute Master ad campaign and website built, but we don't have the domain pointing to the right location
Oh,
yet.
I could do that this week probably.
No, that'd be cool. The last one we have is the unnamed
Yeah.
one for podcasters and for webinars, webinar eats, webinar ites, whatever. People who give webinars. So like those are then they'll have all four done unless and until we make our instantly sliced up your video into cool stuff product.
Mm-hmm. Well, the on the podcast note, actually, a couple of things on that is pretty up to date information. So one of the things that have been we've been working on is, in terms of feature set, has been the ability to make a recording public or private. So right now, right, especially in Summary Legal and in Class Notes, you don't want to make those things public.
No.
So we haven't built that functionality yet, but we are building it now for the purpose of the podcasting or like a more, boardroom, whatever, right? Like you
Right.
want the ability to share it publicly without necessarily forcing a user to sign up.
Gotcha.
So we're building that functionality. We're playing around with like the podcast niche specifically is interesting because on the consumer side of podcasts, there's a lot of people, but on the producer side of podcasts, there's
Very
not.
few. Very few.
And what, I think there's actually a world there where we can go after directly the podcast producers for a product that could actually be shared to their audience. And then additionally, the audience tool can subscribe to that podcast's summaries and transcription, and then they have their own library of whatever mix match of podcasts they want.
Right. Yeah, my intent was this was going to the content creator more than the audience because the audience isn't monetizable.
Oh, you were so that was actually a misinterpretation for me because I thought you were originally talking about the consumer side because that's how Mark is actually using it right now.
Oh,
so,
wild! Well, he's like, I mean,
I know
yes.
it's not a good use case, right, for him. But like he's been uploading podcasts to Summary Legal for the purpose of understanding if the podcasting consumer side of the application is like useful, right? Gotcha. Upload a podcast and actually get the high level notes on it. He sent me a couple that I've clicked through and scanned and listened to, and it's like, well, this is it's a lot easier to ingest a 3-hour podcast in 15-minute chunks, than it is to do the whole thing in one go. But either way, I think there's two sides to that market, and it could be interesting to build a product that allows that two-sided play.
Yeah, I do think, and I mean, we have to launch and test, right? But the thought with the podcast side of this is, the podcaster, what you really want is people to consume the information any way you can get them to. And it's a simple fact that in an hour-long podcast, there's only a few minutes that are actually interesting, unless the personalities in discussion are sufficiently amusing that you will listen to the whole hour anyway. So either you must edit, but most podcast pros and I think we're sadly I'm falling into podcast brodom. Most podcast bros just upload it, right? F it, we'll do it live. And then it's your job, the listener, to figure out the worthwhile bits out. Having a summary, right, of the show notes. Here's the 5 good things,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're like, I want to know more, click on it. That is really really powerful. My kind of MVP style use case was just I, the podcaster, or more likely the producer who I pay,
Mm-hmm.
uploads it, gets the notes, and then just pastes them into my actual podcast backend.
Yeah, yeah.
Although, of course, with Zapier and Airtable, you can push stuff directly over to Anchor or whatever. But I'm always, what's the minimum I can get someone to say, oh, I don't have to listen to myself to make my show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's always an improvement. So it is worth bringing up. We kind of started this at the top of the hour with we have a what you can do with GPT and with low code and with no code. And I think it's worth mentioning some of the stuff we've done with Summary Legal, which was technically low code, right? Your actual, I
Yeah.
think you said Diego wrote like 15 or 20 lines of CSS and JavaScript, and
Yeah.
suddenly everything's better.
Right. Technically, yeah. Summary Legal is a low code product. 90% of it, 95% of it is no code.
99, yeah,
But
whatever.
yeah, there are a few lines of custom JavaScript and CSS in there. Yeah. But we actually, on that slightly technical note, one of the things that we've done is actually store those snippets of code uh, somewhere else outside of the softer instance and then call them in. So
Okay,
so as we continue to accrue these properties that
right.
require, little tweaks here, little tweaks there, showing and hiding of buttons, things like that are just like really really specific, we can reference universal packages outside of softer, which will be nice for version control.
Congratulations, you've reinvented Angular.
Yeah. Yeah, the low code no code Angular, exactly. Yeah, just GitHub
Exactly.
and a couple of imports.
Yep,
That's it.
exactly. Or includes, because I'm old. I'm like, how do you do it with .NET include library, whatever. Yeah. All right. So that does bring me though to the discussion and something I was noodling around with last night. Right. Chat GPT-4 launchers and the tech demo. Did you watch the tech demo?
I did not watch all of it. I watched like half of it. I'm
Okay. Did
bad.
you see the website build?
I did not see the website build. Tell me about it.
This was insane. Now, of course, again, this is as Sam Altman said in his release, right? Surface level GPT-4 looks incredible. As you delve deeper, you do start to see where the emperor's not wearing clothes. But what he did was he had a notebook where he'd drawn out with my head, where he'd drawn out a website,
Mm-hmm.
and then he told GPT-4, he said, "Look at this and build me this website," and it did
Wow.
in like 60 seconds, right, from paper wireframe to code, and that's insane. Now, the issue you run into is if you go, awesome, now I've made wireframes of 4 website. What 4 pages of a website? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee you, class names will not be consistent across these pages. You'll
No.
have different size H1s and H2s. It'll be a mess because at a little deeper than just the surface level GPT-4, like any of this generative AI, does start to show where the seams are. That said, that's still crazy. And I think a lot of what I've been reading on research papers is some of the biggest utility for GPT and this whole sector of AI
Mm-hmm.
is taking people who are bad at something up to adequate at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because all these AIs are trained to the median of the internet, right? So you won't really get much that is better than the average of humanity, which, whether you're an optimist or a pessimist, says how high you place that average of humanity.
Yeah, but I mean that's still a pretty good way of looking at it. I mean, to be average at literally everything that's on the internet is like above average,
Wild.
right?
Wild.
There's a YouTuber, Chad Littlefield. I follow. Runs a doesn't matter what he runs, but he has a concept called trying to be a one in a million, right? And you don't need to actually be the best out of a million people at one thing. If you're one out of 100,000 in one thing and one out of 10,000 in another thing, well, guess what? You're one out of a million in those two things, right? But GPT is now probably one out of 100,000 in like 100,000 things.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
so it's a little, a little bit of a different, wow factor. I think the
Yes.
the thing that I think is going to be just this. I don't think it's going to be as so much disruptive in the actual profession so much as it is in the tech sector as like a race to the land grab. Is like every single one of these professional industries, whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, or whatever, is going to have an AI co-pilot, right?
Yeah.
And like this idea of having this thing that you can kind of ask that is specifically trained on your domain of expertise probably bumps your average up a little bit because you're just cutting out all the noise.
What do you call the person who graduated bottom of his class in medical school?
A
Doctor.
doctor. Yeah.
That's right. So
Yeah. That's it's still true. So I mean I think there's this huge land grab right now, and the way to actually get a foothold is going to be through these low and no code systems and tools, be it Softer, Glide, whatever. It really doesn't matter because you just need the first 1,000 users, right? You need the first 1,000 people actually paying for your service, and then you can go raise whatever kind of money you want. Do it the normal way, right? Build a company that actually has like proprietary tech. Maybe spin up your own, open source version of GPT. As fees increase, right? I'm sure it's not going to be, well, who knows, right? It's 100 times the power and 1/10 of the cost for GPT-4 or something like that.
Yeah, it's insane. That said, the race now as Google is putting
I saw
Bard,
that video. Yeah.
Bard into
Inside
everything.
inside a Google Workspace. Yeah. They're
Yeah.
just putting the whole thing in.
And I mean, I like okay. I've got Notion. I'm a power Notion user. You are too. Notion AI I found is less useful than no AI. Like whenever I ask Notion AI to do anything, I'm always like, "That's the wrong damn thing. What are you doing?" Part of it maybe I'm used to using GPT-3 and GPT-4, which are better tools than Notion AI, and so because I pay OpenAI to whatever is $20 a month, right?
Yeah.
I'm using that tool. So compared to that, it's like, you've got GPT-3 and perhaps 4. I haven't gotten to play with it much. Is like you have a high school sophomore who will do anything you tell them to infinitely. And Notion AI feels like you've got a fifth grader.
Yeah.
Who
I mean,
will do what you asked briefly and then go back to eating crayons.
I have to imagine that Notion AI is just like OpenAI reskinned, right? Like are there many models?
They've said it is not, or maybe it's like 2 versions back some other LLM that they got cheap licensing for or something.
Yeah, the model underneath all of these services that's going to power all of like Coda AI and all these tools that are coming out. I mean, I almost feel like there's going to be like a powered by, added to all of them because the consumer has no idea how to differentiate that.
Or care.
Like they all just throw AI at the end. How do I know what a good or bad AI is?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I don't even know if that matters, right? But
and then it is I use Midjourney, I use Stable Diffusion, and I bought a lifetime deal, whatever, a year ago, to something called Synthesis AI. And it is also like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion are both, you get, art school graduate quality work out of it.
yeah.
And then whenever I use Synthesis, a fifth grader eating crayons, right? Because I don't know what they trained it on, but apparently people who are very bad at art. So the differences in this is problematic when you as a consumer go, okay, people say that AI is super good, but then I asked it to do this thing for me, and it was incoherently bad instead. And
Mm.
I do agree there needs to be part of why Google came to dominate the search market wasn't because they were especially good, but just like McDonald's, it was consistent. You always got an answer that was good enough,
Mm.
right? No one the quality of McDonald's hamburger, but at least it's always the same level of adequate, which does tie back to GPT. Always takes you up to adequacy. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
enough, right?
No.
Just being good enough is enough to be I don't know, billions and billions. Things I saw, right? I told you on the
Tell me about
pre-call
it.
where we started to stream.
Yeah.
We had I saw somebody build a Pong game in about with GPT4 worked in browser, and then some other lunatic went, "I want to build a game that's one side of the screen is Pong, and the other half is Conway's Game of Life." And then the ball would bounce off the little. You know what Conway's Game of Life is? Yes, it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
early cellular automaton. Like they
That is a wild game.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the ball would then bounce around on these little particles, which I mean, they didn't dissolve because that wasn't asked for in the rule, right? So just the ball would go bouncing around, and then eventually you bring your paddle back, whatever. Like you can, that's a novel problem. Nobody else has ever asked to code something that dumb before. So you can do really, really simple code projects. One of the things I'm working on, I'm building a tool to help people in the job hunt figure out like right cover letters, make their resumes better, get out there. Okay. Case I thought of I'm unsure how to monetize. But there are, I think it's 6 million people in incarceration in the United States for nonviolent drug crimes. A lot of
That
them,
number seems low, I feel like, for the United States, but
that may be just one state. I don't remember.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean,
I mean, okay, the
whatever it
population,
is, the number's too
yeah,
large.
the
Yeah,
U.S.
continue.
population is 300 million. If you're telling me more than 5% of us are in jail, that feels wrong. Anyway, point being, a lot of people in jail for nonviolent drug offenses. Many would appeal if they were better writers. If you knew how to write a very effective appeal letter for what, a tenth of 1 cent is what the AI costs, right? And then has just rolled out last night. Do Not is one of the largest robo attorney firms in the world. And they now roll out an app where if you get a call from a scammer, you boot up the app and you hit record. It will record the call and then it will file a lawsuit instantly with the call, recording, transcript, all the specifics of when and where and who appended instantly, like a 2,000 word lawsuit filed. And these scammers will not win this because you've got all the proof you need to prove the case. It's like a
Wow.
$1,500 lawsuit that you get to file instantly. And then I believe it's like Do Not Pay takes $150 if it's successful. And that's it, right? So you get
That's amazing.
1350 every spam call you get. And the idea of how do you write an appeal for clemency? How do you write a many of these people would be out on the streets if they could afford to write these. They could hire someone to do it. Like again, up to adequate,
Fascinating.
right? A lot of these people are reading and writing at below high school level. What if you suddenly went, now you do read and write at high school level? And the other use case, this I saw a while back with GPT-3, was if you go to Fiverr now and you transact with people in pick a foreign country where English is not their first language,
Hmm.
the quality of conversation you have with not everybody, but with a number of people who I used to talk to, whose English was very sketchy,
Hmm.
and now it's elevated to be quite good because they go to Chat GPT and they say, "How do I say this?" and it goes boom. And so
Hmm.
these aren't dumb people. They're making a living. They are good at their trade, but they're not good writers. Being
Hmm.
able to say, boop, there you go, right? Like I imagine Fiverr is going to start to put that in, and GPT4 supports 12 languages, I think, whatever it is. Suddenly being able to
Something like that.
say to GPT4, how do I tell this person in French, I do not agree to the terms of the new lease, and I am going to file with the Regia Quebec for mediation,
Well,
and it
yeah,
can go
whatever it is. Yeah.
and then send. It's not doing Google Translate; it's writing it from scratch, and
Mhm.
probably has fewer errors as a result. Like, what's coming, dude? I don't
It's
know.
just the beginning, man. It's just the beginning, and it's a huge land grab. And I had a cousin. I have a cousin who's graduating high school right now, and he's asking me, hey, I want to get into tech. What should I go into? What should I study in school? I don't know what to tell you, man. Whatever you like,
Yeah,
because it's not going to be. You don't necessarily need a literature degree or an engineering degree or a biology degree or like all of these things. That average AI is going to be really good at being able to break down these concepts. So, at the end of the day, you kind of just got to do what you like, so that you enjoy whatever it is you end up doing. Because by the time he graduates in 4 years, we're not going to be on GPT-5.
no, 20
Like it's
GPT
gonna it's
20.
gonna it's gonna catch up to the iPhone pretty quick. Like
Yeah,
people
yeah,
were pissed off at paying for a new iPhone every year. We're not even 6 months in, right, to
yeah,
GPT-3, and already we have a 4. And it
yeah.
really kind of puts GPT-3 to shame at this
It
point.
does, and then they will, of course, keep. They're moving as fast as they can and as quickly as, I mean, Microsoft dumps a
A
literal boatload,
$10 billion. Yeah.
yeah, of money, like an aircraft carrier sized boatload of money into this, and they are able now to afford so much bigger sets of training data. I saw Paul Allen on Twitter say, given how much most people don't like to write, what we may discover in 3 or 5 years' time, as everyone shifts all of the writing that they don't really want to do but must over to AI models, a few thousand people will be the new training data for all of these AIs, just the folks who still like to write. We're the only ones doing it, and then all the AI will train off of them.
What are we gonna do?
I don't know, man. I
We got
still
a
like
front
to
row
write.
seat to this, man.
We do. It's insane, and the speed at which tech goes faster. Like, and I thought, I'm an old man. I remember before the internet was a thing you could really do, and the pace of that has been insane. And now I'm just watching as AI hits, and it's got the same energy of Web3, except it's actually useful,
Mm.
unlike Web3. Sorry, any of my Web3 clients who are listening. To be fair, they're all doing interesting things with Web3 attached, but any of my
Yeah,
leads who I'm talking to who have like a open sea style marketplace for NFTs, that's not so interesting. Sorry, dude.
well, the Coinbase, the Coinbase wallet came out last week. The like connected, integrate Web3 into your app with that. And I think the only no code builder I know of that does really good Web3 work is going to be Builder,
Okay.
BILDR.com.
Yeah.
Really solid low code building tool. But when these worlds are going to combined at some point, right? Like I'm wondering who is working on the GPT-4, trying to tease out what are actually the use cases that could get traction.
Yeah.
Because Web3 it's just sort of a buzz in a community right now.
It is a solution that hasn't yet found its problem.
Yeah, or at least adoption to the problems that it's trying to address.
Well, like, it doesn't solve the problems it was stated to solve, right?
Yeah,
Like, decentralized banking is not the obviously, because otherwise we wouldn't go, "Hey, my bank failed. Can someone please centralize it?"
yeah.
But the some of the use cases, durability, shareability, portability that come with blockchain, that is legitimately useful. But we were all sold, you know, when ETH
6 years
Moon,
ago. Yeah,
yeah, and decentralized banking will allow all the unbanked access to the world's finances and whatever, whatever. And no, not yet, right?
yeah.
Whatever. All right. So, other, like, what if you our weekend isn't rapidly approaching, but it's coming. Uh, if you were to try and build something with GPT-4 this weekend, what would it be?
That is a good question. Um, I think I've always actually been really fascinated around family tech. I feel
Ooh,
like there's not a lot of solutions in helping like families organize either through vacations or scheduling and prioritizing things that matter to the values of you as a family.
yeah.
If I were to prototype something this weekend with GPT-4, it would probably be maybe a vacation planner. I think that would be pretty cool. Add the shoot the city that you want to go to, and have a mix of sites to see, historical things, museums, activities, restaurants. You sort of have a checklist of a handful of things that you'd like to do when you go on vacation. It might be nice to just say, hey, here's the city that I want to go to. Build me a 3-day itinerary, and you grab the flight that's on sale this week.
That see the problem I run into, and I this is not a bad idea, but the one real thing that always bedevils me is there's a window, some indeterminate time
Hmm.
in advance of when you want to go. That is the right time to buy a ticket. And it might be 6 weeks, it could be eight, it could be four. You just have to check and then hope that you're not buying during the wrong week for this particular flight
Mm,
because it also varies flight to flight. Being able to set an agent where you're saying, look, I want to go in June. I want to go to Porto in Portugal.
yeah,
I mean, I do, given that crowd as I've already mentioned, is out of money. I shan't be, but I want to. So if I were building out, right, find me the best week ish to go and the itinerary once you know when I'm going.
yeah,
And then, like, that takes a lot of the executive function of this problem away. Just getting the itinerary, I mean, Rick Scott or Rick Steve or whatever his name is, like, they've got tour guides, right? Those exist.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
the challenge for me at least is doing it in the most capital efficient manner when, of course, the airlines and the tourism industry very much wishes to make sure you do not.
yeah, yeah. And I don't actually know how GPT-4 could figure out the best time to go. I mean, there's probably historical data that it could reference in some way. I mean, I'm sure the flights in March 2020 were probably pretty cheap. So it might tell you to go to go in March.
That's
Um,
true.
but who knows? Right. The,
Right.
the the point is that generally my point is that family tech, I think, is undervalued.
All right. That's
And
cool.
that there's a huge hole in the market for people who want to organize their family a little bit better. Um,
Gotcha. I
and
like it. That's good.
yeah, yeah. That's shot in the dark, right? I mean, you could do anything with
You
GPT-4.
could. You
Why
could.
not? Why not make a market for something that doesn't really have one yet?
Yeah. Well, that is one of my, like, I launched this idea a couple years ago and instantly got shot down because it was illegal. But it remains something that I want to do, which is as we die now, we have a tremendous online footprint.
Oh yeah,
And being able to set an agent to basically grab everything and produce an archive, to me, feels like something that people would like. The problem is Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, none of these guys want you to scrape their content.
no, you have to do it through the front door, not the back. I mean, you have to authenticate your
Right.
Facebook and TikTok and all your other things.
But, and so I had looked into that, and they really discourage you authenticating in and then trying to vacuum up the entire history. The only thing you could do, maybe, is Facebook has export. All of them have to now by EU law, right? Have export features where you get an archive delivered
Yeah,
some point in the future, right? When and delivered like, okay, one of my clients who doesn't want to pay me is mailing me a check to my postal office in Canal Point, Florida. where my business is headquartered, right? It's $200 check. And I'm like, kiss off,
Really?
right? And I'm like, can you do anything more modern than, like, bring it up to the 1950s? Can you wire me money? And they go, no, we do checks. I'm like, honestly, the de Medici family was better than this. But likewise, with Twitter or Facebook or any of these, when you say export me my data, they're like, great, meet us on a park bench on July 7th, wear a red rose, and someone will hand you a paper bag full of your information. That's how difficult it is to get it out. But like, if I were to build something, I might build the process to actually request and get that info. And of course,
Mhm.
the problem is when someone is dead, they can't log in. They're dead. So when you go connect this to their account, that's against TOS for everybody's services.
Oh.
That's what actually got me whacked on this. Was I built it and you can authenticate in, and they don't like it when you vacuum up, but you could. But as soon as they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh well, this is for family members of the dead person." They're like, "Nope." I'm like, "Oh cool, thanks, bro."
That's going to take an act of Congress.
Something, yeah, I know. Oddly enough, I didn't decide to launch a startup that required,
Your
I don't
user to
know.
be dead?
Well, no, that required legislation to be passed before the startup could work.
Yeah.
I opted for an easier go-to-market, Tom.
Not a good strategy on that. Not a good strategy on that.
Exactly. All right, so that's GPT-4. That's what we've seen with it. What we've built. I don't think we like necessarily have in summary legal or class notes or minute master or fourth thing. I don't think we have a need for GPT-4 yet. We can keep using GPT-3 like
We could,
chunks.
but it's going to be, upload like summary legal. I can imagine upload your notes, upload, the pictures of whatever that could be involved in a case. Uh, it could expand for sure, but right now,
First, make sure that there's a need.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Although the one thing I was seeing was because you can now do object recognition in photos with GPT-4, you can also then on the fly, like take a sample every 5 seconds of video and
Hmm.
use it to automatically crop video for you too.
Wow.
Yeah, so like go on the faces, crop to that, right? This
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. That
So
kind of thing. Hey, we'll
anyhow,
see. We one of us starts churning out, 50 shorts a week. You'll know how we did it.
there you go. There you go. Exactly. All right, Tom. How do people find you online if they want to know more about X-ray and building stuff with you?
You can prove you're human. Smash the like button and
Smash
subscribe to
that like.
YouTube. Yeah,
Oh man,
and
ding and hit the bell,
yeah,
right?
there you go, there you go. All that stuff. Xray.tech, xray.tech. All of our content is on there, and you can follow us on YouTube if you want to see our actual, tutorials and strategic videos that we put out every single week.
Oh yeah, and you just hit like 600 subscribers. What are you
We
at?
did just hit 600
You
subscribers
did.
today.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Congrats. Round of applause.
Yeah, I like seeing the numbers go up. So yeah,
Yeah,
six
that's
six
good.
hundred is good, and we're over 9,000 views every 28 days, which is
Nice.
a lot
Nice. I think I have
compared to the old days.
32 subscribers, and I think 3 of them are my mom. So,
Yeah, well,
doesn't count.
that's the joke, right? 8,000 of my views are my mom, and that's
There you
okay.
go. She
She's
loves
she's
you
very
very much,
supportive.
Tom.
Yeah, very supportive. Yeah.
All right. I'm Trevor. I run Crowd Tamers. As I've already mentioned, hey, we've got some capacity. If you want anybody to help you run go-to-market experiments, I'll probably work out a deal with you. You can find me at crowdtamers.com. I'm on everywhere as Trevor Longino. Look for the mustache. You'll find me. All
Thanks
right.
for the time today, Trevor. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody. See y'all.
Take care. Bye bye.